Hi everybody, welcome to Khong Driving, and today we are in the 43rd or 44th day of MCO, and we are stuck inside the house. Well, anyway, we have some very good news to share, and that is regarding one of my favorite brands, that is Mazda. And the latest news we hear is that, very strong rumors, that the Mazda 6 is going to be a rear-wheel drive model instead of the traditional four-wheel drive. Well, currently the only Mazda that I can think of that has got rear-wheel drive is actually the Miata, which is a small little car, and it's 2-liter with 160 horsepower, and it's a 2-seater. So it's really small, and I think the market is hungry for something that's a bit bigger. So moving on, well, traditionally, Mazda has been fighting against its own Japanese competitors like Honda, Toyota, and Nissan. And of course, they also trying to make an impact on the world market, and Mazda is actually having quite a good impact. But with this move of going to rear-wheel drive, Mazda now takes the fight to the continental brands. So we first saw some hint of this at the end of 2018. That's about 1.5 years ago. And this was at the Mazda Media Forum held in Bangkok. And of course, Mazda Malaysia kindly invited me there. And there we saw the Mazda RX Vision plus the Vision Coupe. And this was to foretell what was in store for the future for Mazda. It was an open secret then that the new Mazda 6 would be modeled after the RX Vision. So when I saw the RX Vision for the first time, that sleek, long bonnet lines of the RX Vision and the Vision Coupe, there were two models there, immediately hinted to me that this is a car that is designed for rear-wheel drive, because the bonnet line was long. And you don't have long bonnet lines when you're front-wheel drive. For front-wheel drive cars, you have the bonnet very short and it's close to the body, so that the whole car is compact. Well, this one was really nice and long with a shark-like front, and so of course the Mazda 6 was going to be modeled after the RX Vision, and that was made for a 4-door sedan. And then of course there is the Vision Coupe, and that one immediately says that this will be the sports car concept, and maybe we'll get a replacement for the Mazda RX-8. They might call it RX-8 or something else, we don't know. So on a personal level, my association with Mazda is quite colorful. Let's take a rewind back to 1975. This is a picture of my Mazda Capella RE. This was, the Capella was built between 1970 to 1980. It had a normal engine, and also it had the rotary engine. So mine was the rotary. It was called the RE or RX2, and it had all of 120 horsepower, and of course 157 Newton meters of torque. Back in those days, that was considered quite powerful. And of course, we were fighting with the Italian, the Alfa Romeo Berlina and the Alfetta, and the RX2 could give as good as it got. So this is the story of my Mazda Capella RX2. It was my claim to fame. In 1976, I bought the car second-hand from Mr. Tan. Thank you, Mr. Tan. He had a piling company in Oakland Road. I think I paid 3,500 ringgit for it, and with very minimal modifications. It was series production. They only allow you free plug leads, your shock absorbers are free, mounting points cannot be moved, everything else must be standard. Spark plugs are free. Okay, so we did 10 races in that car, and 5 times I was second, and 5 times I was first, never third. So that was my good experience with the Mazda rotary way back in the 70s. At the same time, I also saved enough money to buy this car, the Mazda RX7 Savannah. This was the first RX7 and I bought it second hand. It was a recon model from a shop in Jalan Sungai Besi, and it had the same engine as my Capella, but it looked really sporty, and it was like it was dubbed the poor man's Porsche back in those days. Well, mine was green. This one, yeah, I took it from the net, yeah. So that one had the same 10A engine. And this car had a 4-speed manual, a very, very heavy clutch. And my wife thought that all car clutches were like this until she discovered some other car later. And of course, for this car, it was supposed to be run on unleaded. We didn't have unleaded fuel at that time, and we had to change plugs many times because they keep on getting fouled up, and fuel consumption wasn't its best friend. Okay, so around that time, I was racing for the then distributors, and at the same time, we also had a chance to enter the rear-wheel drive 323, which is this car, in rallying. Now the 1.3 liter car didn't have very much horsepower, maybe about 80 horsepower or 70. And so what we did was we shoehorned the rotary engine in here, put in a very big fuel tank at the back, and if I tell you what it's made of, you will laugh. It was actually a 45-gallon drum of you know the oil drum? They cut into half, and that fitted into two of the wheel wells of two of the cars to make two fuel tanks. So that was the fuel tank we had for the car. It didn't do very much for the stability because the fuel was so high up, but those cars were powerful, and we had the same gearbox, of course, and I had quite a good result in that rotary. I think I was second overall in one of the rallies, can't remember. And of course, the next year I had a very bad experience where I actually crashed it. Well, that's another story. And at the same time, as a company man at that time, because I was driving for Mazda, the Mazda said that, hey, YS, try to buy a Mazda 626 as your company car. And at that time, I was not so high in ranking, and I had to buy a 1.6 liter. And what they were selling here in Malaysia was the 1.8 Mazda 626. But what Asia Motors did, the distributors at that time, they specially imported a 1.6 for me, and that's how I got my 1.6 liter Mazda 626. And it was just about a couple of years later, one of my staff went and crashed it. Long story, somewhere in Ampang. So it was head-on, and that was total. What was good about this Mazda 626 is that the handling was very good. It was one of those cars with variable springs for front and rear, and especially the rear, because when you take a corner, the variable diameter springs, what happened was it can iron out the small little bumps, and then when you take a corner, you will just lean a bit, and then after that it gets onto the smallest part of the spring gets in, and you sit on the hardest part of the spring, and the car just goes around the corner like it was on rails. So even back in the late 70s and late 70s, the Mazda 626 was already one of the best handling cars around. And of course, these are all the rear-wheel drive cars of Mazda that I had. Okay, now back to the present. Why is Mazda going in this direction of front engine rear drive? Why? Well, looking around at the market, performance cars such as Mercedes-Benz and BMW, they are all rear-wheel drive. Yes, Mercedes is going into front-wheel drive because they are moving down into the lower end of the market to try to get more business, and they're also very aggressive with the SUVs. But the cars that matter are maybe the C-Class, the E-Class, and also the S-Class. And for BMW, the 3 Series, 4 Series, 5 Series, 6 Series, 7 Series, they are all rear-wheel drive. Yes, there are some all-wheel drive versions, but generally, these cars are rear-wheel drive, and they exude a certain kind of charm. So people always associate rear-wheel drive cars with this type of performance and class and what do you call the attractiveness, yeah. So yeah, Volkswagen and Audi are two brands, they belong to the same, that go for front wheel drive, but their performance models are all-wheel drive too, like the Golf R, like the A4 Quattro, you know. All the Quattro models for Audi are for high performance because they believe that going all-wheel drive will give them more grip and therefore give them superior traction. But the traditional ones like BMW and Mercedes, they are still on rear-wheel drive, and some of them are all-wheel drive, like Mercedes. They have got all-wheel drive for cars that are above a certain horsepower. So in that class where the C class and the BMW 3 Series is sitting, that's where Mazda wants to go. Yeah, so they want to have a rear-wheel drive car that will put them on par with the German rivals and fight tooth and nail. And of course, with the Mazda efficiencies and all, well, I think they can afford to do cars that are a bit more affordable, right? So that's good. And okay, here's something else. In Volkswagen, for the more powerful cars, they also have Porsche, and Porsche is rear-wheel drive. And so that's why Volkswagen can afford to say, okay, we don't have rear-wheel drive. You want rear-wheel drive, go and buy our Porsche, yeah? Okay, so, and anyway, you go to Ferrari or Maserati, I'm not sure, but I don't think you can find one with front-wheel drive. So therefore, this again is the lure and the attraction of rear-wheel drive and perception. So people perceive rear-wheel drive as the way to go. So the current leaders for performance cars and coupes are, well, it is BMW and Mercedes. And so I'm talking about mass market, yeah, and so that's where Mazda is going. So earlier, Mazda already announced that they're going premium, and we saw that with the new Mazda 3, which is launched with Kodo design, and it's still front-wheel drive for the smaller cars. So the cars after the Mazda 3, we are looking at Mazda 6. I don't know, maybe they'll have a Mazda 5, we don't know. Okay, so Mazda 6 very clearly will be on the Vision, RX Vision. Okay, so the new Mazda 6 will be based on the new Kodo design, which you saw in the Mazda 3. So Mazda RX Vision, which is the predecessor to the Mazda 6, and the Vision Coupe are based on the new Kodo design. And this Kodo design comes from the Mazda team of people, from design to management. They're all relatively young and very passionate about driving. And you've heard of Mazda Zoom Zoom, yeah, the fun to drive element. And now with the new Kodo design, they're saying that the cars must also be pleasant to look at. So if you look at our video which we saved from Bangkok, you will see that the lines are nice and flowing. And what is good about this is the Kodo design is about the surfaces that you see. They have concave, convex surfaces, and you know, surfaces that are so beautiful, and how they reflect the light is very interesting. Now, one thing about these surfaces, in normal car design, you have computer artists who draw the shape and all that. Then after that, they build a clay model based on these designs. For Mazda, it's a bit different. They have master craftsmen and artisans who will actually visualize the car from the artist, and then they will handcraft the actual model, first on a scale model, then onto a life-size model. And all the surfaces are crafted by hand, and then only they use computers to copy this and put them into production. So it's the reverse type of engineering. So what's in store for us with this new Mazda 6? Okay, the Mazda 6 in rear-wheel drive is going to be an awesome machine if they actually use the design cues from the RX Vision. The shark-like front, the long nose, the coupe-like design, all the beautiful contoured surfaces is really nice, and I can tell you this will give the Continental brands a run for their money. So as I said, the long engine, long front bonnet already told me at that time I suspected it, and now the rumor is almost true. It's no more a rumor, it's already been announced, I think. And so this will be a front engine rear wheel drive, and there is also a hint that for the more powerful versions they will be all wheel drive. So from what I can see, the engine will be a 2 liter or 2.5 liter, and I think there would be turbocharged versions, and horsepower will be anything from 200 to 330 horsepower. So that's going to be awesome. Now with the new downsizing engines, we may be seeing a 1.5 liter turbo, but that is still speculation. Now on top of that, there's a possibility of hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and also electric models. For the electric model, you might get to see a continuation of another lease of life for the rotary engine. It will be basically a very small capacity rotary engine that will be put in the back of the car, and it will run silently without you knowing, and that would be an engine that does nothing but charge up the batteries, be it for a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric car. So that means it's called a range extender. And this one thing good about rotary engine is that it's very small yet very powerful. Well, just for an example, my rotary Capella had only 1.1 liter 1146 cc, and that gave 120 horsepower. That is way back in 1970s. So you can get a lot of power from a little engine, the rotary. Okay, what we also expect is to find it be with a 6-speed manual or auto, or I wish they can bring in manuals here, but there is also talk of an 8-speed auto that's coming, but we will not know until we see. And finally, there could be an RX8 based on the Vision Coupe, or maybe they call it RX9, whatever suits them as long as they come up with a car. And so finally the question is when. Early predictions say we'll see the cars in 2022. That is what most of the sites, websites say. But knowing the Japanese and Mazda, we might fully well see one car at the 2021 Tokyo Motor Show. Well, that's assuming it happens. We hope that by that time COVID-19 will be over and life is back to normal. Okay, and so anyway, whatever it is, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe that's the last car I can buy for my retirement. Alright then, so anyway, that's it for today, and thank you for watching. And if you like our videos, please subscribe, and till we meet again, bye bye.